everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review. And today's review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your #1 news source for everything Marvel. And for today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming 2015 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Ant-Man figure box set from Hasbro. Now this set comes packaged in this special packaging featuring Ant-Man's face on the front. It opens up, it's one of those boxes that opens up and has the figures clearly displayed. So on the inside flap we have again Ant-Man's head with some bio in multiple languages for Ant-Man, and then we have the figures clearly displayed in the window box packaging. On the side we have a little ant, same on the other side. Then on the back we have the Ant-Man logo. We have a look at the figures in the set. And then you'll notice here it's got these little antennas, and so they're movable, so you can move them up. So this is supposed to be for Ant-Man's head, the antennas for his head. So you can have those either displayed up or down. Okay, so let's get this open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figures outside of the packaging. Now, I think this is kind of a cool set. However, there really isn't any unique or new sculpted figures in this set. This is basically all reissued, repainted, previously used sculpts. So the 12-inch figure comes from Hasbro's 12-inch Icon Cyclops figure. That's what it was originally used for. Hasbro has since then used it again for a 12-inch Giant Man figure for the Marvel Universe Greatest Battles set, and actually also did a Goliath variant. So this sculpt has been used several times for Giant Man previously, but this is the first time we're getting a 12-inch Giant Man in this more modern costume. So I definitely like that, especially since we just got a 6-inch Giant Man in the same costume. We're also getting a 6-inch Goliath. Now this is, technically this is the first time we're getting a Marvel Legends type figure of Goliath, at least in this scale. Again, they did the 12-inch in that Marvel Universe line. And Toy Biz did do a Goliath figure, but it was not part of the Marvel Legends line, and we'll look at that a little closer in a minute. The Ant-Man figure is just mostly a reuse of the Marvel Universe Ant-Man figure. We do get the alternate Hank Pym head, which I believe is a reuse of the paper bag Spider-Man / Peter Parker head. I don't have that figure, but that's what I've been told this head sculpt is from. And then the coat, I think, comes from a G.I. Joe figure. Now the smaller figures I think are unique. This is a Scott Lang version of Ant-Man. And then we get this really teeny tiny figure. This is about 1/2 of an inch tall. Now this flying ant that you see here, this is not included in the set. I actually stole this from that Ant-Man movie figure from the Marvel Legends line. This figure is so tiny and the legs don't really stand very well, so this thing doesn't stand. So I'm setting him on the ant. And it fits well with that ant. So if you have that movie Ant-Man Legends figure, this little accessory will work well with this little teeny tiny ant. Okay, so we'll take a closer look at the Giant Man figure first. So as I said before, this is a reuse of that Icon Cyclops figure. This figure stands just a little bit under 12 inches tall. It's got nice solid paint applications for the most part. Now, because it's the reuse of that Cyclops figure, you can still see the line work from the Cyclops costume on this. It's not that big of a deal, but it is something you kind of note, especially like here on the chest area. But overall, I think the paint applications are pretty solid on this figure, and it's just basic red and black. I don't really like the antennas that they use. They seem like a little big to me, almost look like horns, but other than that, I think this figure looks good, and it fits well again with that 6-inch version that we just got from the Ant-Man Legends line. So if you want to kind of simulate your Giant Man growing from 6-inch to 12-inch, you can do that if you have both figures. We've had besides the icons, this mold, Toy Biz did a Build-A-Figure Giant Man in the more classic costume, and that one is definitely, this is probably still the best Giant Man figure to date, and you can see it's a little bit bigger, but I like this figure for the most part. And then here's just for comparison, this was another Giant Man figure that Toy Biz did. This wasn't actually part of the Marvel Legends line. This was part of a box set that Toy Biz did a long time ago. So the articulation on this figure isn't very good, but just to give you some comparisons. So articulation's pretty good on this figure. Head's on a ball joint so he can look left and right, and he's got some up and down movement. He can look basically straight ahead and down, not really much in the way of actual up movement. Arms are attached with your standard ball hinge joints at the shoulder so he can get his arm out good. And they're very tight, but he's got good rotation. You get that kind of clicky noise. He's got the bicep swivel. He's got the double jointed elbow, so he's got good bending at the elbow. And then he's got hinges on the wrist, so he's got some up and down movement with the hands, and he's got swivels at the wrist. He's got the ab crunch joints so he can crunch down and he can look up. He's got the waist swivel, ball joints at the legs so he can do the splits good. He can get his leg forward about that much and kind of out and back. He's got the thigh swivel there at the ball joint. He's got a double jointed knee. And then he's got swivels at the ankle, and he's got hinges at the ankle, so he's got up and down movement. He doesn't have ankle pivot though. And then this figure has 2 peg holes on the bottom of his feet. Okay, so for the Goliath figure, as I mentioned before, this is basically a reuse of the Bucky Cap mold. It's the same mold that they use for the 6-inch Giant Man figure in the Ant-Man Legends line. So if you have that figure, or basically any of the figures that use the Bucky Cap mold, you know what to pretty much expect with this one. This is, I think technically, this is the first 6-inch Goliath figure we've gotten from Hasbro or Toy Biz. Toy Biz did do a kind of a cheesy Goliath figure. It's at least that same mold as that Giant Man I showed you. I forget exactly what this figure's from. The articulation on it isn't that good. So this is really our first kind of highly articulated Goliath figure that we're getting. And the figure stands at about 6.5 or 6.25 inches tall. Again, same height as like the Giant Man and other Bucky Cap figures. Here's just some comparisons. Here's a comparison of the yellow jacket from Hasbro did, years ago, and you can see Goliath is a little bit taller. And then here's a comparison with the Ant-Man figure that Toy Biz did years ago, and they're about pretty close to the same height. Now, as I mentioned, Hasbro did do a 12-inch Goliath figure as part of that Marvel Universe Greatest Battles line, which again just reused that Icon Cyclops mold. I don't have that figure, so I can't give you a comparison. But if you had that, then you could probably do kind of the growth thing between the 6 and 12-inch if you want. Articulation is pretty good on this figure, being it uses the Bucky Cap mold. He can look left and right. He's got good up and down movement with the head. Arms are attached with your standard ball hinge joint at the shoulder. He can get his arms out. He's got good rotation. He's got the bicep swivel. He's got the double jointed elbow. He's got the hinges on the wrists. So he's got good up and down movement. He's got the ab crunch joint, so he can crunch down and he can look up. He's got the waist swivel. He's got the ball joints at the leg, so you can do the splits about that much. He can get his leg forward. Can't really do his leg back too much. He's got the thigh swivel. He's got the double jointed knees. He's got the swivel at the boot cuff. And then he's got the ankle pivot. And 2 peg holes on the bottom of his feet. The paint applications on this one are okay. They're not great. Biggest problem is there's multiple places on the figure, especially like on the arms, where the blue is kind of bleeding through on the yellow parts. So that's that looks a little bad. I mean, I've seen it worse on other figures that have yellow. So and again, it's mostly on just the arms, but you do have some of that bleeding with the yellow colors. Other than that, the paint applications are okay. no other major problems. Now on my figure, for some reason, he's got these numbers on the back of his head. The set was sent to us by Hasbro, so I don't know if it's because this is like an early production piece or something. I assume that this is not going to be on all the figures. It would be kind of strange if it is, but I just wanted to point that out. And of course he's got the hole on his back because again this uses the Bucky cap mold. So next up is the 3 1/4 inch Marvel Universe / Infinite Series type figure. This again just primarily uses the reuse of the Ant-Man figure from the Marvel Universe line. However, they've added this lab coat, which the coat itself is a separate piece you could take off if you wanted to, but the arms, the white arms, are sculpted on there, so you would have, it would look pretty funny if you took the coat off, because you'd have the Ant-Man costume with these white arms and blue gloves. So even though technically you can take the coat off, it's not really meant to be removed. The coat is a hard kind of vinyl plastic, so it's got some leeway in it, but not a whole lot. It's got a hole in the back. I think this comes from a G.I. Joe figure, maybe Dr. Mindbender or something. The head, it comes with 2 heads. So he comes with the Ant-Man helmeted head, which is the same that was on the Marvel Universe figure. And then he comes with this Hank Pym head, which I believe comes from that paper bag Spider-Man figure from the Marvel Universe line. And the head looks pretty good for the most part. The eyes, he looks like he's kind of looking up into his forehead or something, but for the most part it looks pretty good. Now it does, because the arms are sculpted, the coat for the arms are sculpted on and the coat itself is not. When you're looking at the figure from the side, it does look a little funny because you can see his red costume underneath the coat, but then you have the sleeved white arms, so it looks a little strange when you're looking at the figure from the side. So articulation on this figure is pretty good. It uses the older Marvel Universe body, so one of the older Marvel Universe bodies, so it doesn't suffer from the lack of articulation like modern Marvel Infinite Series figures do. The head is on a ball joint, so he can look left and right with no problem. He doesn't really have much in the way of up or down movement on this one. Arms are attached with your standard ball hinge joint, so he can get his arm out all the way, and he's got good rotation. He's got the bicep swivel. He's got a single hinged elbow, so he can bend his elbow about that much, and then he's just got swivel at the wrist, no hinges. He does have an ab crunch joint, so he can crunch down. Can't really look back because of the coat. He has also a swivel there at the midsection. Legs are attached with ball joints, but he can't really do the splits again because of the coat. He can get his leg forward pretty good, but can't really do his leg backwards again because of the coat. Does have the bicep swivel, double jointed knee, so he's got good bending at the knee, and then he does have, actually he doesn't have ankle pivot, he's just got the hinges, so he can do his feet up and down, and he's got swivel at the feet. And then 2 peg holes on the bottom of his feet. And then the next figure, which is about 1 1/4 inch tall, is the Scott Lang Ant-Man. This figure has no articulation. And the detail is on the body is not too bad for the costume. There's no detail really on the helmet though. I mean, you can make out the little air nozzles at the bottom, but there's no eyes or anything. So very little detail on the head. And again, this has no articulation at all. Finally, the little teeny tiny Ant-Man, which is about 1/2 inch tall. Again, no articulation with this. Very little detail. I mean, though, for a figure this size, actually the detail's not too bad. You can make out his little canisters on his belt. He actually does have eyes on his helmet, unlike the Scott Lang Ant-Man. So a little more actual detail on this one than on that one, at least with like the helmet. And this is about, if you got that Ant-Man movie figure, we got a little teeny Ant-Man, a Scott Lang Ant-Man about the same size, so it's pretty much the same thing, though it's not a repaint, because it's actually in a different it's a different body sculpt, so it's not like they just repainted that one. So these are actually 2 different figures, but height wise they're about the same. And if you have that Ant-Man Legends figure, as I said, the flying ant that it comes with is a perfect fit for this Ant-Man, so you can put him on there and have him fly around. Whee! So I know there's been a debate about whether this is considered a Marvel Universe / Infinite Series 4 inch. exclusive set or 6-inch Marvel Legends set. And the truth is I don't think it's either. I think Hasbro meant to be kind of neutral between the two. It's got figures from both scales in the set, but there's no designation on the package for one or the other. If it was considered like a Marvel Legends set, I think there would be the Marvel Legends Infinite Series logo on it, and same with the 4-inch line, it would be that logo on it. So I think Hasbro basically deliberately did this set as kind of something that would appeal to both scale of collectors. So that's my review. Overall, I like this set. I've got a few minor complaints about, things like some of the paint applications on the Goliath figure. But overall, I like it. I like the 12-inch figure the best. I like the Giant Man figure, especially since we just got the 6-inch version of it. The 3 1/4-inch figure is okay. It's kind of cool to get a Hank Pym figure, so I have no real complaints with that. It would have been probably better if they had made it so that the entire coat was removable, not just the main part, but the arm part as well. But still, for the most part, I think it's a pretty good figure and will make a nice addition to the people's 4-inch collections. The 6-inch Goliath figure, the Goliath figure, I think is a nice figure as well. Like I said, our first articulated Goliath figure in the Marvel Legends line. So, and we've gotten all the others. We've got Yellow Jacket, we've got Ant-Man, we've got Giant Man, and so now we've got Goliath to kind of round out the Hank Pym character. So I'm glad we're getting that figure as well. The other two, the two little figures, those are more accessories than figures, but still, they're kind of cool. So, again, for the most part, I think this is a pretty nice set. So this set will be available next week to convention goers at the San Diego Comic-Con. And if you're not attending Comic-Con, be sure to tune in to the websites toynewseye.com, marvelousnews.com, tformers.com, and jediinsider.com, because we'll be bringing you live coverage as things happen starting next Wednesday, July 8th. And we'll have a full gallery of images of this set over at marvelousnews.com. There's a link in the description below. And as always, we ask, leave a comment, let us know what you think. If you're so inclined, please like the video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And until next time, I'll catch you later.